So, I did a 10+5 predictions for WWE and AEW early last year. Go check it out. Cheeky plug. Gonna keep it nice and brief for the 2024 predictions because ain't nobody got time for long intros. Know what else we ain't got time for? Wrong predictions. And the way 2023 shaped up to be, expect there to be some doozies and some clangers in 2024. I mean, hell froze over as CM Punk returned to WWE. You couldn't write it. 2024 is gonna be a mad year. I am Critical Mover Grunt, and this is my wrestling predictions for WWE and AEW in 2024. Honorable mentions: factions will break up for the Callis family, Judgment Day, Damage Control, Imperium, and Bloodline. I think for one reason or another will split this year. Probably other factions that I can't even remember right now. Damian Priest will cash in, obviously, and lose. New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW's relationship will start to deteriorate due to AEW signing their talent and WWE trying to establish a working relationship with them. Sting's last match will involve Ric Flair. I wanted to say it was against Ric Flair, but I cannot bring myself to predict that. It's not in 2024. And big one is CM Punk leaves WWE. Backstage drama when a wild CM Punk appears as you accidentally put one foot in the grass and the rappel doesn't work. Feels inevitable at this point. But we will see if he was genuine about being back and about being home. If cranky Mr. Punk is no longer cranky, then we could see him here for the long haul. But if he wants to see the world burn, we could see him gone from WWE before he sparks the flame. Now, onto the list. Number 10, Adam Cole's Devil faction to dominate AEW. This list was initially written over a week ago before 2024, and after World's End I made a few changes, and this is one of them. Should have said spoilers for this entry, but it's a wrestling prediction video, guys, come on. Anyway, as I'm sure you are aware, Samoan Joseph is the new AEW champion, and it's crazy to think that the Samoan Joes in the two biggest American companies ended 2023 as the top champion, but I digress. The post angle of the title match was the reveal of the Devil, and as bait and obvious as it was, I still found it to be pretty good. Predictable or inevitable doesn't mean bad, and Adam Cole being the Devil was expected. People might be against the fact that he was revealed as the Devil after MJF lost the belt, but for me it makes sense. And now I've gone back and watched the promo, and him turning on MJF before Max turned on him is, in a heel's mind, very logical, and the faction looks to have a clear goal in mind. If Adam Cole is upset or jealous with MJF being the champ, and Cole is injured also, so he can't challenge right now anyway, and thinks it's MJF's fault, it makes sense that he would try and take everything away from MJF, his title and his supposed best friend. But if this faction is going to be taken seriously, unlike the Firm, let them dominate AEW, you know, unlike the Firm. The Kingdom currently have the Ring of Honor tag titles, which they took off MJF, let's not forget, but let them win the AEW tag titles, or have the Kingdom and Roddy or even Wardlow go for the trios titles. Adam Cole said that Wardlow will climb the ranks to go for the AEW title, and then he will do the right thing and give him the belt, but I actually think that he should go for the TNT title since that was basically his belt. That's how AEW were portraying it before anyway. Roddy said that he's going for the international title, or he could go for the Ring of Honor Pure title if you want him to just hold a belt, but I'd say keep it AEW based. And although there's a good storyline with Wardlow going for the world title and having to relinquish it to Adam Cole just like he had to before for MJF, instead Cole should win the AEW title before this year is out, not have it handed to him but actually win it. Let the Undisputed Kingdom be the new Undisputed Era and hold all the AEW gold. Number 9, John Cena will retire. A compelling story for John Cena could have been his pursuit of Ric Flair's world title record, but if you've seen some of John Cena's posts and promos, some of the things that he has been saying is that he doesn't know how much longer he has left. He has been speaking about losing too much and not being able to get a win. Then he basically got Samoa Spike out of existence by Solo Sikoa, something his uncle Umaga should have done to Cena all them years ago, but we don't talk about that here. Anyway, he's defo at the twilight of his career and he still can't buy a win right now, but there's many routes that they could go down. He could chase that record title and win it, although he shouldn't, then have a Ric Flair type run where once once he loses, he will retire. But he has a run similar to his US title reign with the matches and the open challenges. Might make some of the matches predictable, but at least they should be entertaining. Maybe he does title versus career and loses, or because of all the L's he's been taking, he say, I'm tired of losing and I'm tired of my body failing. I'm just tired, so if I lose again, I'll retire. There's actually lots of routes that they could go down, or WWE could just troll us again by having Baron Corbin retiring. Number 8, MJF does not win the title for the entirety of 2024. I was so sure that MJF was gonna go the whole of 2023 as the AEW champion. However, the talk is that he is legit injured, and rather than run the usual interim champ nonsense, I think they've done away with it, as they could have done that with Jamie Hayter and Jon Moxley during their injuries for the women's title and international title respectively. Instead, they took the titles off them and called an audible. And don't get me wrong, the year Samoa Joe has had, he deserved to be a champ in my opinion. But I believe that MJF doesn't lose that title without a shoot injury. That said, I predicted that he wouldn't have lost the title last year, and I was so damn close. It's the same way I feel he won't win the title back at all this year. I feel the only way that he's winning that title back is if Adam Cole is the champ and he has to run through the Undisputed Kingdom to get to the title before getting his retribution. But there are quite a few wrestlers I feel are now ahead of MJF in the queue that it will be at least another year before he even gets a sniff. Then again, there are a couple of wrestlers who could win the title where seeds have been sown for a potential feud with MJF, some of which we might talk about later. But I think we are waiting until 2025 for our scumbag to become a champion scumbag again. Just imagine it was for the WWE title. Number 7, Sasha Banks returns to WWE. Mercedes Moné was all over the television at AEW All In, and it was widely expected that she would probably sign with AEW. And although they could sign her whilst injured, it would likely be after she was cleared to compete. Here's the thing though, the rumours of her going has been dying down a lot in recent months. Not only that, but Triple H is now in charge, and Sasha was one of his golden girls in NXT. Now it's all up in the air. So I believe that she could return to WWE. I mean, there's a ready-made storyline just waiting for her. Dissension within the Damage Control ranks, the implosion causes Bayley to be kicked out of the group. Then when it looks like she's all alone, she reminds everyone that she still has a best friend that she can call. This potential story has already been teased a few times on X. She already has beef with Kairi Sane, who is now back in WWE and in the group. They could finally run the 4 horsewomen match on the main roster, maybe WrestleMania. She could run the match that she was supposed to have at SummerSlam with Bianca Belair again. There's even been talk of a Naomi return, another potential route that they could go if they manage to get the both of them back. There's many avenues that they can go down, so just do it already. Number 6, Bryan Danielson becomes AEW champion and or wins the C2. Unfortunately, I haven't watched a lot of the Continental Classic, so I definitely need to catch up. But I know it was great, and I know Bryan Danielson was a big part of that. But if you have been paying attention, you'd know 2 things. He was the one announcing and promoting this tournament, and at the moment his body is breaking down, but by his own admission, he is winding down his career. Him going to another top North American promotion after WWE and not becoming a champion is insanity. So I predict at some point he becomes AEW champ. Samoa Joe is champ now, and they have history. Joe scaring the fans by yeeting Bryan around the ring, making everyone think he's legit injured, would be investing television. And Bryan being champ ties into my next entry, as that could be his next rivalry, or he could have another rivalry with Hangman Page, which again ties into my next entry. Point is, Bryan is yet to be a champ, and that needs to be rectified. If not, he needs to win the C2 after promoting it so heavily in 2023. So don't be shocked if he wins both in 2024. Number 5, Swerve Strickland breakout superstar. So shout out to a few other wrestlers. Obviously Samoa Joe, but as he is the champion, I don't think he needs a shout out. Ricky Starks, who was kickstarting his career on Collision before the Punk firing, but despite that has gone from strength to strength and has become a champion because of it. Christian Cage, and we thought that Jungle Boy would be boosted from their feud, but it feels like Christian came off quite better, and you'd argue he is the best heel in AEW right now. But if we look at the heels, who is hot on his tail in second place and could even make a case for being the #1 bad guy in the promotion, even in wrestling, is Swerve Strickland. The second half of 2023 has been his year. He has been an absolute beast. When it came to him confronting Hangman Page, I popped hard, and for anybody who rates Swerve the way I do, they would have popped as well. But to beat him twice, a guy still seen as a face in AEW, a top guy, a man close to the main event scene, firmly put Swerve in that very scene and showed everyone who may have doubted him before that he belongs. He had a banging match against Bryan Danielson, so if Bryan Danielson has the title, their rematch could be a title program. Hangman got involved in that match, so Swerve winning and then feuding with Hangman at some point makes sense, and his never-ending story and still no one-on-one match with Keith Lee aside, and that should be his first feud for the title by the way, he's been outstanding. He is without a doubt a top tier talent and should be AEW's 2024 breakout star and should be holding gold this year. Number 4, Solo Sikoa will end the bloodline. I was going to have main event Jey Uso will win a singles title as an entry, and maybe this will turn up on another list video in the future, but there's only so many predictions that I can have on one video, and I feel this one carries more weight. The bloodline has been crumbling since Sami gave Roman Shield PTSD, then Jimmy Uso kicked Roman's head out of his head at Night of Champions. However, there's been subtle hints of Solo not having full faith in Roman or Jimmy, and even acting as a de facto tribal chief in Roman's absence, like putting his hand out silently to take the mic away from Paul Heyman. Honestly, I thought Solo would be the one to fully end Roman and the bloodline for good for a while now, when he hadn't been beaten for ages before WrestleMania, looking like they were heating him up and keeping him strong. Then he just lost against Cody clean before his WrestleMania title match, a baffling decision if you ask me, and has been pinned a few times since, but he still seems like he is the guy who is blindly or at least quietly following Roman and also the most equipped to take him down. So what happens when Jimmy has had enough again and potentially rejoins his brother, and what happens when something potentially goes down with Paul Heyman, which we may discuss soon? Solo could lose faith in Roman and the bloodline as a whole, and when Roman's whole world comes crumbling down, he will lose his kingdom and his tribe when Solo turns on him and ends the bloodline for good. Or he'll help Roman hold his title till WrestleMania 41. Who the hell knows at this point? Number 3, another Monday or Wednesday night war or other TV deal shenanigans. Honorable mention, Ring of Honor will finally get a TV deal, or Ring of Honor will dissolve, sort of. They aren't really being watched as it is, and if it continues, I can see AEW washing their hands of it or just making it a developmental brand. There's already been a version of the Monday Night Wars on Wednesdays between AEW and NXT, a war AEW comfortably won, but there's many things to take into context. That was WWE's first brand, and it's when they weren't as hot as they once were, whilst AEW were near their peak at this time. Also, WWE chose to war with AEW with their NXT show when they could have just, I don't know, put their show on a different night, like, I don't know, a Tuesday night. Anyway, if WWE really want to be petty, and let's be honest, it's WWE we're talking about, when renegotiating these deals, they could make their shows clash with AEW programming. But let's talk info. SmackDown looks to be moving from Fox when their deal expires in October to the USA Network. This means that they will be on the same network as Raw and NXT, which makes sense, although Raw is also up for negotiation. But I believe that Friday night is not set in stone for SmackDown at the moment, and I don't think that Raw is guaranteed to stay on Monday nights either, although that is much more likely. It's unlikely any weekly programming will move to Saturday night, meaning AEW Collision will be safe for the time being. However, we are already seeing clashes with WWE putting their pay-per-views, PLEs, and NXT specials on Saturdays. Wednesday though could be a possibility, meaning another all-out war again with Dynamite. And lower down the totem pole is Rampage. How they are still running this is anybody's guess, but it has clashed with SmackDown before, and if there is a time slot change where the whole show clashes, it could really put the nail in the Rampage coffin. But if there is a clash, AEW TV TV deals are up in December, I believe, so I'd assume that they could try and negotiate a different day to whatever day that WWE has agreed. I don't know. All I know is I didn't check TNA, but I do reckon that there is a war coming. Not with TNA. Number 2, multiple wrestlers will leave for the other promotion. Another long one, but there's a lot to get through here, so bear with me. But in light of the last entry, I believe this is a real possibility. Apologies if any of this info is wrong. I got most of this from the Fightful website, and they are usually a reliable source, but if it's incorrect, that's where I got it from. But here's some of the wrestlers whose contracts are expiring in 2024. And please note, this is not taken into account for any injury time that they may have had, meaning that additional time may be or may have been added. So we start off with Alexa Bliss. Her contract goes through at least 2023, but as she is off having a little bliss, they probably added time to her contract. QT Marshall, who's already resigned. We've got Ricochet in the summer, all of New Day in December, although injuries may have added time to their contract. Dustin Rhodes in September, so maybe him and Cody could finally have that WrestleMania match. And Clark Connors from New Japan runs out in April according to Fightful. All of these are good additions. Oh, and Jinder Mahal. But then there's some of the big ones. The married couple of Seth Lynch and Becky Rollins, but they seem like WWE lifers. However, we've seen so-called WWE lifers leave before. We've already spoken about Mercedes Moné, who is already a free agent, so she could re-sign with New Japan, sign with AEW, or as mentioned earlier, WWE. Kevin Owens, whose deal runs out in 2024 and has ties with people in AEW like the Young Bucks. Andrade apparently has wrestled his last match in AEW at World's End according to reports. Even Tony Schiavone, who as an interviewer and a commentator would be a good get for any promotion. But there's 3 that I really want to shine a light on. Bryan Danielson looks to end in the last third of the year, and it would be interesting to see if he goes back to WWE or even New Japan, but I think with him winding down his career, he could stay at AEW to be a producer with the occasional match. But who knows, if he retires, he can do that at WWE if they let him. Then there's Okada. I'm not saying his first name because I'm not having the comment section getting at me for butchering it. Although he's had matches in AEW, he's not all elite as of yet, but you think he's not going to be re-signing with New Japan. Then there's MJF. The bidding war of 2024 has been his whole thing for years before turning babyface, but the general consensus was he had already signed. However, it's been kept under wraps very well if he has. What I find interesting though is he lost his title on the last show of the year. There's been no sight of him since then, and in Adam Cole's promo he mentioned that MJF will never be seen again. We all assume he signed already, but this was the same thing that Roman said in his promo when he beat Daniel Bryan on SmackDown in a title versus career match, and everyone thought worst case scenario he was going to end up on Raw. Then he was in AEW fighting Kenny Omega. So if MJF is legit injured, we will see in the next few months if he's getting revenge on Adam Cole for his betrayal, or if he's getting retribution on CM Punk in WWE for beating him in their dog collar match. But I feel a real big one is Drew McIntyre, because as of now he is not re-signed and has voiced his displeasure. So if reports are to be believed and his contract ends early 2024, don't be shocked if you see him pop up at Wembley for All In. Number 1, CM Punk will rejoin Paul Heyman and will main event WrestleMania. I mentioned Paul Heyman earlier, but this one is a shot in the dark because I reckon both will happen, but one or neither may not happen in 2024. If he signed a multi-year deal and WrestleMania plans are already set, there's no rush for him to main event WrestleMania. He could main event WrestleMania in 2025, but with him entering the Royal Rumble, meaning the possibility of him winning it for the first time, has he won the Royal Rumble before? Let me do a fact check. I was doubting myself for a minute. He hasn't won the Rumble. I knew I wasn't losing my mind. Anyway, back to our regular programming. With him entering the Royal Rumble, there's a real possibility of him winning it for the first time, adding to the unlikelihood of Cody winning it back to back. Although this may be the easiest way for Cody to finish his story with Roman. This means that Mr. Punk could go for Seth and get his main event slot on night 1. Now, although going for Roman makes more sense, as that guarantees a main event, which is what he wants, he doesn't even need to win, but wrestling logic in it. Him and Seth have more tension, so that is what they will likely do. However, he could become a Paul Heyman guy again in the process, and that could even be the link between the Roman and Punk feud. And even with what I said earlier, where maybe Heyman leaves Roman to join Punk, who's to say that Heyman can't represent Roman on SmackDown and Punk on Raw? It's gonna be an interesting 2024, and who knows, they can potentially have a feud later on down the line for his services, culminating in a pull on a pole match. And that's the list. There's some predictions that I've had to leave off deliberately as there are too many to list, and as I have a WrestleMania predictions video upcoming which some of these may be added to, this list will be too cluttered if I try and add everything here. There's loads that I've had to leave off as some were just storylines or returns and just basic stuff, so who knows, there may be more vids that's gonna be to specific promotions later on down the line where we get a little bit more into the nitty gritty. But anyway, make sure you like and subscribe. Let me know your predictions in the comments. Got many more videos upcoming, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a bit.